So I'm excited to see you all. We are online only today, so I feel a little bit like we're back in our. I shouldn't even say it. Never mind. We started this playing conversations back during the pandemic when we just needed a chance to get together, and it's worked so nicely that we can still use it to do the same thing, even though usually sometimes we have people in person, but we have so many campers in our building right at the moment, little kids running around doing clay, that we don't have an extra room. So we're doing this online, but it gives us a chance to have this experience again. So, I am Jennifer Zwilling. I'm the curator and director of artistic programs here at the Clay Studio, and I'm very excited that Kevin Snipes is our guest on Clay and Conversations today. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi.
Uh,
Thanks. Hi,
uh,
Teresa. Hi,
yeah.
Hiya,
Linda.
Kevin. Good. How
Hi,
are
Hi,
you?
Greg.
Mel. Hi,
It's good to
Terry.
see you.
Yeah, you
Um,
too.
I am going to introduce Kevin. And first, I'm going to share that we recognize that the Clay Studio stands on the indigenous territory known as Lenapehoking, the traditional homeland of the Lenni Lenape people. We would like to take a moment to reflect on the role of the Lenape as the past, present, and future stewards of the land, and the role of all of us to join in their tradition of respect and caring for the land and each other. Um, Thank you all for being here, and thank you to Kevin. Kevin Snipes is an American artist born in Philadelphia and raised in Cleveland. He earned a BFA in ceramics and drawing from the Cleveland Institute of Art and concluded his graduate studies at the University of Florida. He works primarily in ceramics, blurring the boundary between craft and art. Snipes combines techniques of narrative figure drawing, text, and hand-formed porcelain structures to create objects that can be seen as multi-layered paintings. Kevin has participated in many artist residency programs, often maintaining an itinerant existence through both national and international residencies, including the one here at the Clay Studio, Watershed Center for Ceramic Arts in Newcastle, Maine, Wesleyan College in Georgia. He has allowed a sense of place to augment his sense of identity and contribute to the dialogue of his work. Thank you for being here, Kevin.
Thanks.
Um, is it okay? I can just gonna dive in with my main question.
Sure. Where to start?
So my main question that I always ask is, how and why did you make the brave decision to make your life in art?
Yeah, that's always interesting to hear people talk about that. Thanks for asking. I would say that I never really made the decision to be an artist. I just never stopped that making art as we all did as children. And for me, I feel like I had a lot of trouble communicating as a kid. And even when those other kids stopped doing the doodle drawings that kids always do, for me, it was relief or comfort to actually draw cartoons and kind of speak through the cartoons. I stuttered a lot and had a speech therapist who really helped. But then after I got through it being able to pronounce my S's and R's without stuttering, I was so bashful that I would just talk super fast and I would just say things so fast that people were always asking me, "What'd you say?" And I did this up until about age 20. It really amazes me now as, an older person that I just did that for so long. I just couldn't control my way of speaking. I feel like it wasn't even till really graduate school where I became a good speaker.
Hmm.
So, um,
So you used your artwork during that time to sort of speak for you.
yeah, I would say that.
Um,
So it makes perfect sense that I kind of have pride in trying to connect my sense of self with my art. I'm not making, for instance, someone could be a political artist, and so their work is not about them personally, but it's about the society that they live in and making like really hard decisions about what to show. But for me, it's like I'm very much the center of my investigation.
mhm. Well, and the personal is often the universal. So that's why I think why so many people your work resonates with so many people because we're all struggling with and celebrating and thinking about these things. When you think about that time when you were, using it as a communication tool, there was, when I say that, when I ask that question, it's often also like, what was the moment when you realized, oh, this is what I can do. This is my profession. This is how I'm going to spend my life. It is a shift from I'm a kid and I'm doodling, or I'm good at art in art class in high school, to this is what I'm going to pursue as my career.
Well, I think like really, I just never had any other option other than art.
Well,
You know,
you
like
must have had people like telling you that you knew you could be an artist. You knew that was a thing you could be, and people were sort of
yeah.
stopping you.
Well, actually, there was an interesting when I was maybe like uh elementary school age. I don't remember what age, maybe like 10 or so. I remember walking with my uh, neighborhood friend, and we were walking home from school, and it was really snowy. It had snowed a lot the night before, and so there was snow all over the place, and the sky was really blue, and it was just really stark middle of winter, and the air was like really crisp, like this was that one of those days where it's just like the sky is so blue and the snow is so bright, and I was like, "Hey, look at the shadows; they're so blue." And because the sky was reflecting so much that the shadows appeared blue. And my friend insisted that shadows aren't blue. We were like, "You're crazy. Shadows are only gray." I was like, "No, you gotta look, you can see it." And he's like, I just see gray. And it's like, it's interesting because artists, I think, are people who notice things beyond what's normal. And, for me, it's like that moment was like, I didn't understand that that was my ability to have an artist vision of the world. But um, I always remember that, and I think instead, what I felt like was a weirdo. Like, like I was often told that what I things I said were weird, which is one of the reasons why I didn't like talking. It's because I was saying weird things like that, and I just was, perceptive, sensitive kid,
Mhm.
and um, I really do think that. Um, like I used to draw Snoopy obsessively as a kid and in elementary school, and so even at age 8 or 9 I was like, I'm gonna be the person who draws Snoopy and the Peanuts after Charles Schultz dies. So even at that age I thought, okay, I'm gonna be an artist, so there wasn't really any point where I decided, you know that art was, there was any other option than other than art. I
Yeah.
think when I was a senior in high school, I thought maybe I'll study engineering because that's sort of normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I applied to one school and actually got in, but then I was like, why?
No, that's not your
Nope,
calling.
nope,
Well, I love that. I love that you did sort of see, you knew that there was a person who drew those cartoons, and you knew like you could have that job. So there was like that ideation of what it means
right.
to kind of be an artist in the world in that way. Um, and
I
of
would make
course, posters, yeah.
posters for people applying for class president and things like that all the time. So I was the guy who was always being asked to make art posters. So I started off as an 8-year-old being an artist.
Yeah.
I didn't get paid, but I had jobs, commissions.
Yeah. Free commissions, but it made
Yeah,
you feel like you were the art person, like you were the one they went to when they wanted something nice.
right.
Yeah.
And then when I was 13, I actually started the comic book club in my um, middle school.
Hmm.
And I just put up posters saying, come every Wednesday to the library on campus, at school, and we'll just draw cartoons together. And I got like 8 people to come hang out with me on once a week, and we made a couple of comics.
That's so great.
So
You were
yeah,
already creating community. Um,
yeah,
the um, sorry, my phone was ringing. So I think that all those stories give us insight into this idea that you were already had this vision of yourself as an artist, and that although at the time you were thinking that kid said it was a weird thing to say and that you had a sense that it was kind of weird, but then looking differently at the world is a superpower. That's what, you know, that's what makes artists be able to have this other perception, which is what makes it special. Yeah. So
Yeah.
looking at the world in a different way is really important.
So I think even, I mean, besides, visual arts or, like ceramics or other visual arts, there's musicians who have a superpower of listening to sound,
Hmm.
and dancers have a superpower of noticing movement. And I think every artist, authors have a superpower of noticing words.
Yeah.
So I think every art form, it's it's about noticing. It's about perceiving something that you're whatever field you're geared towards. I
Hmm.
think every art has perception as the starting place.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I hope that everybody feels that they have some kind of superpower that makes them special and what they do special. And it's yeah, take a
Hopefully
way to
so.
look at the world.
I think that artists. I think art is special that way, but I think that perception can be lots of like you could be like a super auto mechanic because you
Totally.
just understand engines better than anyone else.
Yeah.
So it's that's possible too. But I think that art is really special that way.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Um, I have lots of other questions for you. I can start showing slides if you want. Um, or we can keep talking without the slides for now. What do you think?
um, I guess yeah, we can start the slides.
Okay. So I will um start this slide
So
and
I
then
just have put some images into a slideshow, and it's really the it's a talk that I gave recently when I taught at Haystack, and it's the talk that I've kind of given um, often in different ways.
Mhm.
So it starts off with Charlie Brown and Lucy. Um, so Do you have to hit the forward button? I
Yeah.
imagine.
Now,
Yeah,
are you seeing this as one big image on the screen? Yeah, it's
yeah,
working. Okay. So
yeah.
tell us why
So
you included this. Well, we sort of know already, but go ahead.
yeah, so this is the beginning. And the thing about Charlie Brown and the Peanuts is that there is such a sense of like sadness and happiness both in the Peanuts. Like Lucy was also like a psychologist, and Pigpen was always dirty. There was this whole sense that, like childhood wasn't just all fun and games. It was just, um,
Sorry.
uh-oh.
Hold on. Doot. Sorry. Something
So
happened. Keep talking.
having this interest in the arts at an early age, I decided that when I was 15, I would get a job at the public library in the children's section so that I could look at all the children's books. Um, and for the illustrations more than the words. But I love children's books still, and I have like a collection of vintage children's books. And the next image is a series called Ant and Bee. And just even like the dynamics, like the design of this, like the Ant and Bee are like huge compared to the little girl. But the girl has this huge knife, and it's just sort of like this sort of funny juxtaposition. Next image. So it's just like, like this is Linda Berry, Ernie Pook's comic. And she often talked about, she still does. She's a great teacher and talks about in Ernie Pook's comic like hard issues that children have to deal with. And I love that she draws like a child. And I think for me that was always inspiring because I've loved children's drawings and outsider art. And I think I really wanted to be an outsider artist. Um,
But you
well,
accidentally went to school.
which is like impossible because I went to school for art. but still, I think that there's something about outsider art that is just so honest and so personal that it's I think it's a goal of mine to kind of get rid of the training
Mm.
and to make it invisible in my work and just have sort of the rawness. I'm still trying to get that next image. Um, so, narrative and ceramics is not a new thing at all. It's been part of ceramics for a really long time. So there's lots of inspiration in my history. The next image. But at first I didn't start drawing on ceramics. I actually wanted when I started ceramics, it was in college, and I wanted to try to make the perfect shape. Like I was really interested in form, and I was actually scared to draw on ceramics at first. And I was like, it took me a couple of years before I knew eventually I was going to draw on ceramics. I was drawing all the time, and it just made sense to me. So this is undergraduate school, and it's earthenware with terra sigillata, and this is like 1990. 4, somewhere in there. So it's like 30 years old, which is really amazing. And oh, what's that noise?
I don't know. Somebody's thing got unmuted. I fixed it.
Uh, okay. Next image. So this is incised and inlaid with oxide wash. Um, this is a couple of different graffiti artists project. I think this is in Italy, and it's just sort of like a vessel in my mind. It's almost like, vessels are everywhere. And so it's like one of my pieces, uh, just hand built, slab built with drawings on it. Next image. This is from just after undergraduate school, and I started working in porcelain because I wanted to make things more functional. But um, I just, I thought porcelain was more durable, and earthenware and terracage didn't feel functional at all. And but it's kind of torn because I was really interested in this idea of like these two houses, they're sort of communicating through their smokestack.
Mm.
And so I had these ideas that I wanted to make um, work, ceramic work that was about the concepts of functional work, which is sort of backwards because I didn't want to make conceptual ceramics. I actually wanted to turn the concepts of ceramics into sculpture.
Mm.
So one of the concepts of ceramics is that you put in like hot water and you put in like tea leaves, and the teapot is sort of like a uh what's the word I'm thinking of? It's like it's a incubator,
Crucible.
crucible, yeah, something like that. It's just like it's this thing that transforms those raw ingredients into something else. So it's so interesting that this idea of transformation. So I think ceramics does that a lot. There's things you put things into ceramics and then they come out. And that movement is something that is so well understood, even by like a 3-year-old child knows that cereal goes inside the bowl, that we don't really think of it as a concept, but it is a really powerful thing. It's almost kind of like a Zen thing. Like the interior space is more important than the exterior space. Next image. So after the hardship of undergraduate school, I took off a number of years and went to grad school. And I was like, and I was still thinking about this, like, how do I make concepts? How do I use the concepts of ceramics to make sculptural objects? And so I did this little drawing in my first year of grad school. And thanks for Linda Arbuckle, who's here on the talk. We had lots of great conversations. And I feel like it was a really hard time for me because my first semester, Linda was on sabbatical. And so her replacement was insisting that I should make pots. I shouldn't be making these kind of weird sculptures. And I got a C+ my first semester of grad school, which is basically like you better watch out or you're going to get kicked out of school kind of grade. Next image. So I was thinking about these ideas about duality and like how the interior and exterior are different and how people's bodies have interiors and exterior spaces. And I was also dealing with there's one guy who actually really didn't like me at all in graduate school, and he was always making kind of weird comments. And later on, I found out that his wife told me at a party in grad and yeah, ceramics party, she was like, he he hates you. And it was sort of shocking because I knew that he was kind of like um, just a little bit combative, but I didn't really realize that it was he actually didn't like me personally.
Hmm.
Um, but later on, he actually called me up or sent me a text or something, and he apologized for his behavior. Um, Years later, it was sort of surprise, but it was, I welcome that he kind of did that.
Hmm.
But anyway, meanwhile, so I this is the first piece that I made that what felt like it was on the path to working with concepts.
Hmm.
Um, the other side of this piece, which is next image, um, where I made this. It, you have one side that's can hold something, and the other side doesn't hold anything at all. It's like there's two separate things, they're two opposites. But it's also this kind of, you know, male female duality. And so, I was using that term duality for the first couple of years of making this work. And it it was a functional word for trying to understand things like human perception. Like a lot of times humans, just go on the next image, make decisions by dualities. Like we have like night and day and right and left and up and down. And those things, they exist in human brains, but they don't actually exist in the world. Like, there's not actually, you know, there's not actually hours. Like the sun goes around the planet in a smooth transition. There's no like stopping place. And so at any one point, um, it's day someplace else in the world. So night and day are just human perceptions rather than being actual things in nature. Next image. But meanwhile, it was like this is a way for me to talk about a lot of things that I've struggled with, being a Black ceramic artist and basically not having, um, having very few other people sort of in with me, like as a Black artist, I felt really outside of the norm. Um, so I started thinking about this thing that, dualities, like, like black and white people. This is a way for me to talk about that idea of racism or, like just things like that, but in a way that was deeper than um, society, I guess.
Hmm.
So this piece, the molecules, and there's all these little drawings in the background of my work. And basically what I'm hinting at is that beneath the surface, there's these interlocking pieces that connect us all. So I was thinking how in my work, you might have two different characters on two different sides of the work. And, you know, one side seems like it's the front side, but the other side, if you turn it around, becomes the front side. So, but the thing that connects us all together is just sort of like this, like we're all made of the same stuff. We're all part of the earth, and we all, like have similar stuff. So the molecules sort of represent sort of that interconnectedness of humanity and sort of breaking with the rules of duality. Next image. Meanwhile, I've been sort of an avid biker all my life. Starting off when I was in high school, I was a bicycle mechanic, and my best friend and I uh, biked through the mountains one summer in Vermont and New Hampshire, and it's, I didn't have a car until I was 30, and I would just bicycle everywhere. Um, and I still love bikes and just the mechanics of it. It's confusing though, but because it's Celebrate America, but it's also like experiment. Uh-oh.
Got it. I don't know. Some people just accidentally turn off their mute. Go ahead.
Oh, so anyway, this is an image of a school teacher asked kids to draw bicycles from their memory, and then they sent me this image, and this is like years ago. I don't even remember who sent it to me, but it's sort of funny because just if you ask someone, even adults, to draw a bicycle from memory, it's often really wonky. Um, and the one that's on the bottom right almost looks like the kid has a big penis sticking out. It's like, what is that? It's just so weird. Um, so anyway, children's drawings are great. Text image. Um, so this piece it's really interesting. It's also in graduate school, and for me, it's like I was feeling like I was an outsider, and the idea of trying to use concepts of ceramics. So like containment is another concept of ceramics, and it's sort of like a mundane concept. It's like, you have a container, you can put cookies inside. But the idea of containment, as far as emotions or intellect go, is really powerful. So putting a lid on something could be seen as a conceptual idea. So the other thing about this piece is that um, the square blocky shape felt like the normal people, and then I was sort of the outsider. So I felt like conceptually I was these spongy additions to the norm, just because I was often seen as a black artist and not just an artist. Um, Next image. Um, I also love that um, humor. So there's always a sense of humor in my work. So um, he's saying, "I'm going to get you," but he's saying it with a smile. So it's not really a mean thing, but it's also I like spelling things wrong. So I feel like my characters think that they're really cool, but but the viewer looking at them, they it's almost like I'm a writer. So I'm telling a story, and I'm these unreliable characters. Like they think they're super cool, but really they're just sort of dorks. Um,
Well, and
Next image.
they seem innocent too. They're like sometimes
Yeah, innocent.
kids.
So bicycles are really interesting because when I was a kid, I got my first bicycle when I was in elementary school,
Hmm.
and I felt like it was a source of freedom. Like I could just venture out on my own for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
And so I had the bike for a few months, and then I like drove it even farther than ever before, and which was a mistake because there were two big kids who like saw me and were like, "We're gonna take that bike from you." And I was like, "What?" And so they beat me up and stole my bike, and I had to walk home, and I was very unhappy about that. And my dad drove around the neighborhood trying to find them for hours with me, but we never found it. So it was very sad. And it's, one of those Charlie Brown stories where like you there's like this happiness, but also there's this sadness kind of included in that sense of freedom.
Hmm.
Like, like being stuck at home is safe, but to venture out into the world can be kind of dangerous. So for me, this little piece has a lot of different personal narratives in it that all have meaning.
Yeah, and
Um,
I mean, you talk about your work being layered, and I think it's like visually layered, and there's all these different things. And I could ask about the numbers, for instance.
mhm.
It seems
Yeah. I feel like that there's a lot of different things, like there's like the molecules in the background to kind of hint at that idea of the things beneath the surface. So I was really interested in graduate school and conceptual and theory.
hmm
And I remember reading Plato's Republic, for instance, and he talked about pure forms are the only things that really are real in the world. And the idea is that um, things like squares and circles, things that are pure form, will always stay that way. But everything else in life will change. We grow, we decay, we die, so um, it's just hinting at that there's this reality behind the reality.
Mm,
So a lot of the doodles in the background, like including numbers, is kind of hinted at
mhm,
that idea. So this is Basquiat, and there's just two paintings of his in here, or maybe just the one. And something that's really interesting, I really didn't like his work when I was a kid. I think maybe it was just a little bit too crazy for me.
a
Um,
little scary.
yeah, a little scary, but something I really appreciate about his work is that it's so engaging. Like you don't know what's going on, but I feel like one of the lessons that I learned from him is that if you make a story that's sort of a one-liner,
Mm,
it's just so easy to understand that you just sort of you look at it and you're like, I get it, and then you're like,
you're
that's
done.
cool, and then you walk away, you're done. And if you make something that's really complex, that's so obscure that you can't get it, then it's just too hard to work at to get it, then you're also done. And
Mm,
so there's a sweet spot in the middle where you're like, it's not too easy and not too hard. It's just engaging and it gives people the ability to use their own brains. The viewer can actually work a little bit and kind of figure out things.
mm,
Um, so when I was still pretty early in my career, I was working at a community college, next image, and I made a little piece that was I guess it was a box, and on one side it had a grid that was full of letters, and it was like one of those word search
mm.
games. And on the other side, and then there was two sides that had a male and female figure, and then the other side was something else I don't remember right now. But we would have a holiday sale every December, and at the community college, and this woman bought that piece, and then she left and the next year she actually came back and she was like, Kevin, 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 Kevin. And I was like, who is this woman who seems to know me? And she was like, I bought this piece from you last year. And she was telling me how she bought this little box that had this word search and the male and female figures. And she bought it because she thought it was kind of cute. And my work was, at the time, it was just like, it's, probably really inexpensive. But she said that after having it in her home for a while, she started to realize that there was something going on that she hadn't noticed before. And she started looking at the word search and she found all these words that had meaning to her. And they kind of related to her and her husband. And she was like, this is just like me and my husband. And it's like, how did you know? Like basically I was like a mind reader and the piece was like perfect for her.
Mm.
And it was like this story of love and like all these great words she found. And I didn't tell her, but there was actually my intention behind the piece. I remember I intentionally put like these swear words in there and that she didn't find those. And so I kind of loved that this lesson that she taught me. You can go on next image, by the way. The lesson that she taught me was that um, the viewer is always going to take away from your work whatever they want to. And so it's almost like a collaboration.
Mm.
And so I I've kind of embraced that so that I really just like, with Basquiat's work, I kind of don't want to give up the whole narrative.
Mm.
And a lot of times for me, the narrative itself isn't the important thing. It's kind of like how I give people enough clues to create a narrative in their own heads.
Mm.
I think for me that's really important that that connection between the artwork and the viewer is the work. And it's almost like the work is like a telephone or something where the viewer and me get to communicate through the artwork. Next image. Um, so several years ago, probably more than 10 years ago at this point, I was like, it's interesting to see a lot more Black people in the arts than the previous before. And one of the things that I found really hard as a child was that a lot of the Black arts that I saw, Black artists, seemed to be inspired by African art, and I was completely not inspired by African art. I I found it kind of weird because I've never been to Africa. Even though it's obviously part of my heritage. Like being Black in America means that you're not connected to your heritage in Africa. But I have no clue about any of that because that was not part of American history of Blackness. Um, and so in some ways, I feel like I've intentionally rejected being a Black artist, just wanting to be an artist, um, like all my white counterparts can just be artists. They don't have to be white artists. But the label of being a Black artist or a woman artist or queer artist or trans artist, any of those labels, they kind of make it seem like, oh, you're not a real artist. You're just a whatever artist. Um, all those things, all those labels are problematic, I think. But also, there's some, like for me, it's like, how do I be a black, how do I be a Black artist when my experiences don't really include a lot of Black people, a lot of Black culture is not part of my existence. But um, I think, so anyway, this is, I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here. But, this is Nick Cave from Chicago. These are sound suits, and he was originally a dancer, and he started making these art objects as movement pieces. And I have been intrigued with his work for a long time. Next image. So I started thinking about the idea of Black art, and I was thinking maybe one of my investigations could be Black hair. Maybe that could be a something that I could do into to be more of a Black artist. And so I started researching hairstyles because it is really unique. And my sisters were always involved with hairstyles. This is not one of my sisters. This is just an image from the web. Next image. But I just started collecting all these images of Black hair. This is obviously from Africa. And just as, like an area of research for a number of years before I actually even started thinking about how to include it in my work. Next image.
Mm.
And next image. But in the meantime, while I was thinking about that, I was thinking about the idea of, Black people and like what is Black? For me as an artist, Black is a color, a paint color, and no one's really Black, no one's really white. Those are not really colors of people. Next image. So thinking about what is a Black person? This is a Black person, and next image. Um, Black mask. I use porcelain, and I don't color people in. So there's sort of this nonsense that's not they're not um, any color in themselves.
Mm.
So using color as a way of normalizing or equalizing people, so I feel like in my drawings of people, they look all different types of things. They look Black, white, Asian, but they all have the same sort of porcelain background. Next image. Um, next image. So thinking of just about, like Blackness as a color is just interesting. Next image. There's more I could say about that, but this is the first piece I made with the concept of Black hair and sort of an abstracted version of it. Like I didn't want to just you know, draw these. I didn't want to just copy the hairstyles that I found. I wanted to be able to somehow um, bake them into like a sculptural concept.
Mm.
Next image. Next image. Um, so it's become sort of another layered thing. This guy is has this weird black smokestack on his head, but he also has this sort of black ice cream cone with a smiley face.
Hmm.
Um, in the meantime, there's this other little character in the background, next image, and he is doesn't have a name. And I've been thinking about what his name is for a long time, but I haven't really figured it out. But what he is he's often the narrator of the story, or he's like the imaginary friend, or he's like the trickster. Like a lot of fables have this trickster character. He could be like the devil and angel, so that he kind of operates in different ways in my work. And then this girl's hair is also sort of based on that idea of the black hair, but it becomes sort of this moment of abstract expression, just sort of like abstract shapes. Next image. This piece is called Nappy Head. And as a black person, when you have nappy hair, it just means that you have this sort of afro that's really lumpy. And I don't have any hair anymore, as you see, but as you saw. But when I was a little kid, I had really thick hair, and it was always getting in knots. And every Sunday, before my parents got divorced, my dad would sit me down, and I would sit between his legs, and he would like pull my hair out with a pick. I mean, I don't remember the process, but it was really painful. And I had this bad habit of like knotting my hair up. I would just twist it into little knots. And so it was just really always pain. Um, next image. Um, next image. So these are all kind of based on the idea of sort of black hair and sort of afro and but also layering all these other things as well. Next image.
Are we going to talk about the severed heads for a moment?
Oh, this piece at this point, it's about 10 years old. And I don't remember what I was thinking about, but it's one of those things where a stack of heads, I'm not sure, like it has more, um, it doesn't really have like a narrative, a specific narrative. It just has more of a maybe emotional feel. Like it's like almost like, there's different things. Like, is it like a weight or is it a, carrying something, or is it like, what is it? I don't
Thinking
know.
about something or yeah,
Yeah, thinking about something. Yeah, are they thought bubbles? Like things like that.
yeah. And I guess they look more like doll heads than like severed heads because they're sort of
Yeah,
clean.
and they're kind of happy and cute, so they're not like dripping blood or anything.
Right. Okay. That's good.
Yes, but I was really excited about this object on the side, which is sort of like this uh, combination of gumball machine toy with it has a plug in the bottom, but it's also a building, so it's like a apartment building. I'm not sure what it means, but it has some sort of also emotional meaning to it. Um,
Yeah. It's one
it-
of those things that is, like you said, it's going to be interpreted by people, you know,
yeah,
related to whatever something in their life would be.
right. Um, when I was living in Montana, I would go hiking in the mountains a few times a week. The mountain trailheads were like really close by. I could just walk, and it was fantastic. I kind of loved that where you have this really steep. There was one trailhead that was probably about a little under an hour, and it was like halfway very steep uphill walk and then halfway very steep downhill walk, and but it's also just full of like trees and rocks and plants, and there were these thistles that were just really fascinating to me, and just the idea of sort of entanglement and growth, things like that. So once again, not thinking as a concise narrative, but just sort of like the emotional impact of a thing.
Hmm.
Next image. This is the other side of that piece. Um, and yeah, next image.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
we don't have too much time left, so
okay, there's not much work left. I mean, we can just go through the images and then we can have some questions.
yeah, that sounds good.
Um,
I want to show people your paintings.
yeah,
Um,
these are based on Legos. That one, last one.
Legos.
Legos, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, there's just, I mean, I love the idea that your pieces just have so many different things to notice. And like you said, noticing is a superpower, but then it also gives you the opportunity to, as the artist,
This
make
is my one and only COVID piece.
you
Yeah.
oh, the mask. Oh my gosh. You're giving people the gift of something that takes time to look at and that will keep renewing and that every time they look at it, they might either find something new or they'll have a different response to something like that lady who came in, she saw
Hmm.
what she wanted to see. And everyone has the opportunity to do that. But there's also just little details that I think you have to live with the piece or look at it over and over again to find all of the details and then decide, what they mean or what they mean to you as a viewer.
Yeah.
It really is a gift to that we should slow down and have something that's visually compelling enough to spend time looking at for a long period of time, especially in this world where we're so distracted by digital screens and all different things all the time.
Hmm.
An object that can keep your attention for a long time is really special.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's what I try to do. I try to make things that are joyful when it comes down to it, even though there's a lot of, hardship within the work. It's mostly about finding joy through all of that stuff.
And there's magic too.
This is the last piece.
Okay. Well, then we can, oop, there's this.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering what this image was about.
Well, it's just this is my first day in Japan when I went to visit a friend of mine, and we immediately went to a sumo wrestling match. So it's just the end end piece for the talk. So I knew that it was came to an end.
This
Thank
form
you.
looks a lot like something that you could make one of your vessels out of too, to me.
Yeah, I love this image.
That house form. That's great. Okay, so then people get to see what's in the exhibition right now, which is out of order or not in any specific order, I should say, in this slide talk. But I'll go back if you want to talk about any specifically, but I think I'll just go through them this way so people get a chance to, if you haven't seen them in the gallery, to see them here.
And
Um,
these are a little bit washed out. I mean, they're a little bit light,
yeah,
a little bit overexposed. So
that's why people have to come see them in person. That we actually have a photographer coming on Monday who's going to take different
hmm.
pictures, which is great. But so many of the same themes that, the idea of your vessels are flat-sided vessels that you've transferred, what people would think of as like your drawings onto the vessels. And then in a way, you're taking them back and now you're putting them back on a 2D surface, but finding ways to make them have either a sense of three-dimensionality or a concept. This one specifically, of course, because it's on the back of what was a box that was three-dimensional, right?
Right? Yeah.
Um, excuse me, but the drawings themselves have so much depth, and there are layers and layers of, I feel it feels to me like you were drawing and then drawing on top of things. And I think you told me that
This
you
is actually marbled paper that I hand marbled before I drew painted on it.
hand marbled it.
Yeah.
When did you do that? Just
Well,
taught yourself how to marble
yeah,
paper?
I did.
That's cool. Oh, that was
That was
you.
my first attempt. So it's a little bit like I didn't do it right. So this is a mistake, but it made a beautiful background. So yeah.
Um, do you want to talk about any of them specifically, or should we open up for questions?
Well, we can open up for questions. I mean, so I did a lot of painting after my surgery, and that was 3 years ago at this point, and it was a lot harder than my surgeon had suspected it would be to recover from. So it took me. I'm still recovering. I still haven't recovered. I just made a big improvement only a few months ago, finally. Um, so I've been struggling with a lot of pain, and just now that I'm improving, it's astonishing to realize how much pain I had before because I still have pain, but and I have a lot of pain, but it's so much less than what I was dealing with before. So it's amazing to me that I was actually walking around with so much pain.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a lot of work done. I haven't got a lot of work done in the past 3 years, and I feel really badly about that because I love working and I just wanted to make lots of work. And I feel grateful that I've been able to work on these 2D pieces. But I love three-dimensional working. I, so yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions? I'd be happy to answer
Great. Let's
now
see.
that we have 1 minute left,
Well, we can go a
technically.
little bit over. It's okay.
Hey, Kevin, I was wondering because and this maybe explains a little bit that you were not feeling as well the last few years,
Yeah.
but just finding more of your work. How would you suggest someone who wants to start having more of your work in their homes and lives?
Yeah.
How do we find it? It seems
Well,
like it's a
yeah,
little
that's,
rare.
yeah, it's been very rare recently. And, the past 3 years, like when I first it was a pretty phenomenal surgery. I probably did something to my spine when I was a kid. And so even at the age of 20, I had too much mobility in the bottom of my spine. And so basically I had, arthritis, bad arthritis when I was a teenager, just because of something that I might have fractured something and it just didn't heal right. And so at this point, I my surgeon said that he had never had done a surgery quite like mine. It was just very intense. And they actually, removed parts of my spine, and I have a cadaver bone in my body. Someone else's bone is in my spine. Um, and
Whoa.
they had to change the placement of the my spine because it had been sliding out of place. And when they did that, the first the first surgeon who came in to open me up, they went through my abdomen almost like a C-section, and they ruptured a major vessel, like a blood vessel, and it had to be sutured. So when my surgeon came in, he had to work on the other side of my right side instead of my left, instead of being in the middle. So my spine was placed kind of like a little bit off center. And so it's just made recovery like I'll probably never completely recover. It's just
Whoa,
like it's
moly.
a yeah, it's intense. So I haven't made that much work, ceramic work. And I'm I had muscle atrophy, and my right shoulder was stuck forward, and my I was leaning forward, and I couldn't stand up straight. And I just recently, like I would say, like 3 or 4 months ago, I was actually able to uh, re like get rid of like I was able to create that neurological connection again between my muscle and my brain. So now that that's happening, my body is sort of transforming internally. It's like reshifting. Like I'm like, my spine is untwisting a little bit. And now this is a painful process, but not the same painful process as I had before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I I will be making a lot more work, um, but I'll not at the clay studio because I only have one more month left.
Yeah,
Oh,
Kevin has been a resident for 5 years, and
yeah.
we've been really honored to have him. That's the as long as the program is.
Yep.
But it's good to know there are people ready to support when things, and more work is made. I'm gonna ask, I think there's some other questions. Fabio, you have a question?
Yes, hi, thank you. Hi, Kevin. I
Hi, Fabio.
keep meaning to ask you this. I've known your
Mm,
work, I've exhibited and sold it for 15, 20 years.
yeah.
And I wonder whether you hold back and keep important pieces throughout your career just for you or for that, retrospective
Yeah.
edition.
That's a great question. I do. I didn't used to. And when I when I got out of grad school, I started selling work. And I would send, a box of work off to an exhibition, and then they would sell it all. And I was like, oh, that's great. And so I wouldn't get any work back. And I kind of thought that was normal. But then someone was like, what do you mean you don't get any work back? That's not normal. And which is, I was really grateful. But what it meant was that I only had like the scraps and like things that I really didn't like in my studio space for the first number of years. And so I realized that my studio was full of like bad work, basically, compared to all the things I was selling. And it was sort of uninspiring to see all that bad work. So I realized I had to keep a few pieces that I like. And so I usually keep small pieces, nothing big, but I do have a small collection of like personal pieces. Um, and they're just something about them is something I want to remember that I did. And like there might be just one little element that's special, and I'm like, I need to remember this. And I feel like if I just had boxed it off and sold it, I would have forgotten that little thing. So yeah, I do.
A good
Um,
question.
yeah, great question.
Also, I think some of the things Kevin says are not good are really good in there. I don't know. I never see anything bad in your studio, but that's just my own
Well,
opinion. Um, Linda typed a question. We were in the same place when you made a big change in your forms. Your forms started to come from the same imaginative space your drawings did. I wonder what will happen to the paintings as you move into them. The piece on the flattened box looks like a hint. That's great.
mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm kind of excited. I mean, I feel like my paintings need to be more three-dimensional. It's somehow, like I want to make them bigger, but I also want to make them have either clay elements or something. There's something in there. I don't know what it is yet, but yeah, I'm really,
I'm really glad to hear that you're feeling better because I think people who've gone through those sorts of things know what a sap on your mental space and your energy that is. And I think that I'm really excited to see what the paintings grow into and maybe some back and forth with your dimensional
Mhm.
studio work. It's really great that you're feeling some better, and I hope that you continue to improve.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, honestly, like I didn't realize that the what I was suffering from was a lot of neurological problems. But now that I'm feeling better, it was like my brain was almost like it was screaming at me, like it was like a silent scream, like 24/7. And it makes it harder to think about other things when your brain is screaming at you.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
So yeah, so I'm kind of like a little nervous about the future, but I'm also like have hope that good things will happen.
I
Would you ever publish your sketchbooks?
That's a great question. I really love the little booklet that the Clay Studio produced for me, and I've always wanted to make books. Like I started off working at the public library, so this is the little book, and the
Ooh.
Clay Studio has this, so it has a little my sort of artist statement. This is actually a dummy copy. So I've always wanted to produce zines or small books, and so um, that is a possibility. Like I would love to collaborate with someone. I think that it's a big project to create a book, and so if I had um, sort of a team or something, or even a person who was more expertise at that, I would love to produce some small books.
Well, one of my favorite things when we visit in person is always seeing your sketchbook, and I find it so inspirational.
And thanks, Linda. I always loved our conversations about things like that over the sketchbook. I
Me
tend
too.
to, one of the things I love to do is when I'm talking on the phone, I will just start drawing as I'm talking. And so I don't know if so it may not work, but I just use these envelopes and um, sometimes the drawings are really interesting, but they're just like, I don't even think about what I'm doing. Sometimes they're just lists of things like just um, here's a funny little drawing.
Yeah.
He's wearing an ice. Even things like this, it's like, there we go. Just, I love this eyeball because there was like some printing behind it. So it sort of fits in really nicely. Um, anyway, there's just lots of these little things that just sit on my table.
Hmm.
Um, this piece, um, I actually attempted to make. I haven't, wait,
Almost. Oh,
almost.
there.
Oh,
Oh, it was there. There it is. There it is.
there.
Oh,
Mm.
anyway.
Anyway, I tried to make this, but I don't like the piece as it is,
It
so it's
doesn't
not
want
going to
to show
work.
us. It doesn't
Mm.
look enough like a face.
If I look at, no, there we go.
There.
Is that a vessel inside a cage?
Well,
Would
it's just
that
a
be there?
grid.
Yeah.
It's a grid with letters, but it's also the inside. It's a wall piece. There we go. So there's an eyeball on the middle of the vessel as well.
Yeah. We have a question about whether ever considered working larger. And you and I talked about that once.
Yeah, that's been a goal of mine for years to work larger.
That's,
Um,
I think,
yep,
something for when you're feeling better.
yep.
And people are saying they hope you stay in Philadelphia. We hope so too. And of course, Gary's question, the paintings are in the show. They're all available. I hope you come and visit. We would love for everyone to come in person if you're in the area. If you want a personal walk around with Zoom, we can make that happen if you're far away. If you are in Philadelphia, we hope you'll join us on August 14th in the evening. We're having a special reception for Kevin's show and then Mina Kim and Akiko Jackson's exhibitions, which are also up right now. Other comments, Jana says, thanks for sharing your story and your moving work today. So many things resonated and feel relatable, especially your relationship with being defined by your race and finding your voice outside of that external label. Thank you for all your nice comments, everyone. Kevin, do you want to close off with any final comment?
Mm, um, I can't think of anything.
Okay. Well, you've said a
I'm sure
lot,
there's something great
and
I could say, but
you've
yeah,
already said lots of great things, and it's been a pleasure to
yeah,
hear you talking about your work and the evolution. And
yeah. Thanks for being here, everybody.
I can't believe it's been 5 years, but we're
Yeah,
grateful for you to be here. So,
yeah. Thank you.
yeah. Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
Kevin.
Bye.
Have a good
Nice
day.
to see
Thank
you.
Nice to
you.
see you.
Thanks,
Come back to
Kevin.
Cleveland.
I'd love to sometime.
You're always welcome. You have many places you can stay.
Oh,
Aw,
that's great.
thanks.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody. Come visit us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay.